Saturday Showdown. DN Freaks versus B&K DRX.
I think ultimately Rel would have made this composition a little bit easier to pilot, but I think given the lock-in of the Rakan, it's just such an easy choice here to put Peter on this. And so many of our support players have upped their game in terms of Poppy this year. I feel like in the past there were only a few players we'd trust to play the Poppy. You know, Barrow pulls it out occasionally, you know, Carrier can play it. Now everyone has just kind of mastered it. And it's no longer this rare pick. It's just extremely common, super consistent. And Peter is on the list of players, which is basically everyone in the LCK who can utilize this to shut down a Rakan incredibly well.
We want to brawl, we want to scrap, and we want to set up for these huge bullet times. We'll see whether they can get there as we jump onto the Rift for game number 1.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Just throw down their next ward, and that is immediately going to get cleared out as well. Nicely played here by KT. Does mean that they don't have a lot of vision for the next little while.
Based on what we've seen so far from Product. Peter roaming.
Yeah, Rich going to get interrupted there, so not going to be able to make it down towards the bottom lane in order to get that crash too comfortably, unless he does, like, the crash then came in, so Casting was able to claim everything. And majoritively, the experience as well.
In great position to just secure this. It might be some plate they look for in trade, though. They're going to collapse instead.
Oh, yeah, Sponge. Seeing what he can do here as the Grub goes down to 1 health. Sponge not in range for that one. Looks like Cuz is just happy with taking one of them down. Does still have his smite. Goes back in there, gives Sponge his 1 grub before he heads on over to secure the remainder. So 2-1 in favor of KT here as the charm going to connect on to Cuz. Realm Warp from BDD was awkward because now it's left Cuz completely alone. Now going in, they're doing the do-si-do as the flash forward from Peter doesn't get the heroic charge, but there is finally Sponge being taken down. Doctom caught in the river though, and this is a complete disaster on both sides. Everyone just getting caught out. Yeah, Teddy getting that kill is a huge deal as Pleta on a flank angle here as Doctom with no flash, just gonna get feather stormed. Pullback comes on through and Doctom is just deleted once again.
It's an even gold game here, for sure. You know, when you look across the board, some scattered gold leads for KT as, oh boy, Teddy.
Oh dear. Teddy might be giving away some of that cash money. He does have level 7, but remember that Featherstorm still on cooldown. He's got flash, but I just don't know whether he's going to be able to use it, and they give the money to Doctom. That is exactly what KT wants.
It's massive, bit of swing.
Yeah, just in the bottom lane is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and now DRX down here, trying to stick onto this dragon. Game losing advantages, but see if Sponge can find an angle here.
Yeah, Pleta wanting to try and get in there as well as Yukal's come round from the side. Blast cones over as Pleta finds the quickness and they just blow up the Xin Zhao immediately. That will be the Drake secured here by Sponge as well. And back at it again in the grub pit here, seeing whether they can lock this one down. First one goes over to Cuz. That's going to get at least 3 for KT. Pleta goes in, and PDD now in trouble. The charm's fantastic because trying to get rid of them. That Blade Caller was brilliant from Teddy, though, as now Peter looking to try and protect Doctom. PDD in the back of the pit, and they just get murdered. The Doggo going to lock that one down, as that is not a great charm, and Casting out of there with the Blast Cone. KT still on the ropes, though, is now Casting able to flash his way out. Flash from Doctom there as well. Yukal goes in, and there's the charm. It looks like Peter is going to be the sacrifice as Rich is able to flash his way out. There are a lot of flashes now on cooldown. KT get information. BDD on the wraparound as Peter able to avoid the charm nicely. Pleta a little bit awkwardly positioned as there is the Keeper's Verdict. The flash in from Peter to start the fight as Sponge is getting equalized. Has to flash all the way out of the fight as the Featherstorm used so aggressively. And I don't know whether I necessarily agree with it, as now Rich diving on in, Casting going to slow him down, but there's the kill onto Cuz, and DRX somehow just made it work.
They made it work, and I think putting all of your engage tools there and committing onto the Nefiri was probably not the game plan in terms of her pressing W.
Right. And yes, you will put himself in harm's way, but maybe that's going to be your way of getting something, is now BDD trying to get out of the way. It looks like Cuz going to be the target as the quickness comes on forward, and he is just going to be obliterated.
What is happening?
Well, it's not necessarily working here for KT, as Pleta's going to battle dance his way out. Finally, we do see that bullet time, and
there you go.
Equalizer actually that's able to take down the Rakan, and now everyone diving in on top of Teddy and Yukal. The Harpoon going to connect the Featherstorm. comes down as well, and that is going to keep Teddy safe. But look
Two
at this.
turrets.
Yeah.
2 turrets in trade. One of them an inner. And this is not what KT was looking for. They have the Realm Warp.
Another charge. Is now Peter looking for UCal, who just vision. Casting doing the same thing, and DRX smell that something's up. And they are just going to continue pushing elsewhere. This has been the smart thing that DRX have done. They've just said, no, we're not going to fight around the places that you're prepared for, KT. We are instead going to take all of your stuff elsewhere.
Pull them around the map and find a weak angle to exploit, to attack.
Well, it could just be BDD. As now Rich could be in trouble as well. Keeper's Verdict is going to knock him up as he looks for Ducked Arm, but it doesn't quite work out. BDD going to be able to teleport his way out of here. Yeah. What happened? Where did he just, Realm Warped his way to safety and then teleports all the way over towards this Otacon as now Pleta could be in trouble. And UCal is going to make his way in. The doggo is a very long way away. Equalizer just to try and deter UCal. But it should be Cuz that's able to lock this one down, and there it goes. And now Pleta finds himself the quickness. Casting probably sent home first, but Pleta, it's going to go down. There is that recall that we were talking about. Teddy able to pull back some of these feathers, but only gets BDD, and he's pretty tanky right now. UCal still trying to be annoying as Teddy caught in the rune prison and just deleted. DRX, you cannot be going for fights like this as Sponge might be able to clean up, but remember, these are just recalls, and BDD probably didn't need to flash, but still, maybe he doesn't even get sent home as Rich comes on over. Finally, he does get sent back, and now I think the cleanup should be working out, unless Sponge dies. If he dies, it is possibly over for DRX as Rich possibly burnt to a crisp here. Journey.
Yeah, he wanted to fight the dragon too. He was pinging as well.
Yeah, that was incredible. It's like watching Milo and Otis, you know, as
if Sponge gets a steal here, oh god, he's not going to, but
he doesn't even need to go for it, right? They've already got 2 dragons in the pocket.
I mean, they have such a phenomenal team composition now that Teddy's sitting on 2.5 items. Rod's done here for UCal. Did go for that build.
Oh, okay. Let it going in. He's able to pick up a blue buff for himself there as well.
And, you know, it's looking a little murky, the game state again here. Pendulum swinging slightly back towards KT.
Yeah, it's
last
a bit,
exchange, but
it feels a bit rusty on the KT side. You know, it's not quite getting up to the heights that the DRX side are quite getting to, but it's still not doing too bad. As Cuz with a fadeaway smite going to be able to lock down that Gromp that went on such an adventure. Yeah, a vision is now going to come on through as BDD off to the side. And DRX, I think they know that they were on vision, but my god, look at this Baron. It's going down so incredibly fast. That teleport going to need to happen relatively quickly now as Pleta down to about 50%. Sponge keeps the Baron leash.
They could just collapse on the casting. He does walk away. They're keeping this leash, though. KT have to make a choice. They have to make a decision. They cannot just let this go.
The good old Raptor for Baron trade is what they're looking for here as it's down to 3,000 Cuz they do evict the Rakan. Is now the bullet time finally in a good position. Casting dives forward though. I don't know about it because he's just going to get taken out. These health bars are so low, but still it's KT that are lying on the floor. Ducked Arm needs to get some of these autos to land as Sponge goes untargetable and out goes the rest of DRX. So they do kill the Nefiri. They take down the smite here. At the gold graph, it really was sort of that one decisive fight for DRX, and then they were able to make basically no headway. There's a really cool hat on this Rise as well.
Ends the game and snowballs him to a victory here. Cuz going in.
Yeah, he's looking for the angle as Sponge goes untargetable. Great knock-up as Pleta is going to be the first target. Not quite able to stop him from escaping is now BDD. Looks for the angle and Sponge is just going to be cut to shreds. Does finally get that cooldown back, but it is not enough. And back-to-back deaths might just mean the KT locked down this Baron. Sponge, oh no!
Teddy wishes he had his ult right now.
Oh, there's some shock blast damage, but Peter is looking pretty durable. Pleta, not so much. As Casting with some harpoons doing some work here. As Heater just gets rid of the Ahri. Now it's 5 versus 3 around this Baron pit, and KT will be able to lock it down. Cuz with the smite picks that one up, and now Casting is just going to die as they all take the Realm Warp out of there.
Rich tries to go in and interrupt that one and stop them from getting out, but he's unsuccessful. Luckily for him, he does live as well, because
all right, we're just looking to try and kill UCal, who's smacked against the wall and taken out. There's still a turret here as well, and so KT might be able to augment this Baron with even more money. And the gold, ladies and gentlemen, is almost even. The pendulum.
Yeah.
They just got some WD-40 out, and now it's just swinging beautifully, baby.
There you go. This game is wild. All right, so when we didn't have the replay interrupted, I was like, oh, I guess UCal got out. But what happened in reality was he went up here and greeted for this wave.
Yes.
And so then he died. And so we won't have the other replay, which is fine.
KT invested a fair bit, but
yeah,
I don't think they're going to worry about it.
For KT, so they really can't make that tough call.
Yep, UCal finds the charm actually onto Casting, who finally has an arm guard. Now we're realm warping, we're looking for the angle. Rich just flashing away, but KT, they get the angle. They take down turret number 1. There goes turret number 2. And now UCal looking for it in this back line. Doesn't find the charm, they'll lose the dragon, but in trade for 3 turrets, you're probably taking that. As KT, where do we go from here? Where's the out? How does that one work? As in goes the quickness up Rakan. Equalizer doing some work here though, as KT just back out the way they came, I guess. There's the flash out from Casting, and now Sponge might be in the wrong position as Pleta almost cut down where he stands. The steadfast presence is so incredibly strong. Getting corralled by a hot dog is so weird, as the shock blast is going to soften them up. And KT take 3 turrets.
Verdict here to deny the entry.
Yeah, they get rid of Pleta to start this one off, as Sponge gonna have to be an absolute hero. But look at this, the Baron is just eliminated. They do take out the Poppy, but now the Realm Warp looking to get them to safety. Casting is a sacrificial rumble. He's dead. There's nothing that he's going to be able to do about that one.
The Dragon wasn't even up. DRX really dropped the ball here. KT just
10
walked
seconds
around them, and DRX, bit of a late punish here. Now, can they get the punish is the question. The inhibitors got on that. That's no question, but how many do DRX kill?
Yeah, Dom runs really quickly. And this is something that they've already done. They've just given them the runaround, as there is the flash charm from UCal.
BDD pushing mid at the same time. BDD is looking to end the game.
Yeah, he's pinging on the Nexus turrets. It's all right. Sponge is going to be... No! It's Cuz denying the Dragon Soul as well. And BDD takes down the first Nexus turret. Now the Equalizer is down. That one was gorgeous. DRX are just falling apart. KT, it's just one after the other. Better decisions. The flash is gorgeous from BDD, and he walks out of his own Realm Warp because he just does not need it, ladies and gentlemen. Rich running real quick, but I just don't think he's going to be able to catch up to this rise.
A real lack of a unified shot calling voice here.
Oh, watch them just win. Okay, Peter is just going to look to walk this one off. It does not quite work.
Now, BDD did not use his teleport, so he can't just teleport right back in here.
The good old naked Nexus situation here. Dom only needs about 4 shots onto that one, as Rich is going to boot Cuz away. And BDD, look at that. He's just walking towards this Nexus. Dom just needs a few autos, flashes out of the way, and KT will get the comeback victory here in game 1. But
근데 이거 질러서 쭉 가자. 같이 갈게. 집탈할게. 얘들아 5명 뭉치면 이긴다. 천천히.
끝나긴 했어. 아리가
천천히 해. 천천히. 아직 안 끝났어. 오케이. 쏘리. 내가 먼저 할게. 얘들아 이거 그냥 가서 타워 치면 될 것 같거든. 나 텔 찍어줄게.
테론
맞아.
같이 할게.
그냥 나가자. 이거 싸움 볼 생각으로.
나 스크램 빨게. 스크램 빨게.
그냥 잡고 잡자. 잡고 하자. 잡고.
데이스 볼게. 데이스. 오케이. 데이스.
그냥 타워 치는 거 어때? 타워 치자. 타워 치자.
Setup. When it came to late game macro with this rise and the Realm Warp, I mean, KT quite literally ran like 3 circles around DRX and just won the game. KT very aware of how to kill structures and kill Nexus and win game. DRX not sure how to stop that strategy. Setup, Skarner impales with Tempered Fate. It's really challenging to do, but it can happen, as it looks like that Aatrox is going to eventuate here into the M-Best. So they probably expected was coming here for Rich. As in terms of the drafts here, I think it's fairly even. The biggest concern for me is how the early laning phase is going to go between Teddy and Dom, because you're supposed to, air quotes, get a nice advantage with the Varus in this lane matchup, but if Dom and Peter mess it up and Pleta's playing Bard and Teddy gets an advantage there, it gets tempo, because whenever you're supposed to win against Ezreal, if you lose control for just 1 second, it's very hard to get it back, and the Ezreal just kind of coasts, and if he ends up clearing that wave and getting that faster rotation top, and then, suddenly Rich is actually outpacing you with the lane swap.
The lane does mean that the Varus is not going to have as much power, but I do think that KT once again have put together a comp that does work on paper, and I think this time around DRX don't have the same level of answer into it. But honestly, analysis, is it even that a big deal here?
We'll find out.
Mid laners have been playing outside of the fact that Sponge got a huge lead in game 1 and then lost. I think BDD and UCAL have been absolute linchpins for both of these squads, not only in this series, but throughout the LCK thus far. And if that's going to remain the case throughout this game.
They also have a ward on the Dragon right now, as well as Grubs. Like, there's no mystery here for KT whatsoever about what DRX are doing in this early game.
However, they still might give over a kill here, although Sponge is just going to be a little bit too far ahead of his team, and none of the buttons are going to land.
Peter tries to catch a lawnmower, but a little mistimed.
Yeah. Sometimes you just don't quite know which part of the wall he has entered in, and you don't really know where he's at. So, not going to blame him too much for that one.
It's just going to be a trade of objectives here. KT getting a very valuable individual Dragon. Grubs, though, feel really nice to get the full set.
Oh, Casting finding some great combos. This guy's Aatrox looking pretty nice in this early stage of the game.
And he almost blinded it, but they decided to go for the Rel instead. I think that was definitely the right choice. A bit of a fight here.
Yeah, Chains of Corruption does just go wide. True. All right, Casting does find another good trade here against Rich, as Pleta is over here. Only level 5, no Tempered Fate available. But Peter is going to turn up as well. And this crash might spell some doom
Weaver's
here.
Wall ready, too, for BDD.
Yep, some extra health coming on through there, but there is the wall. Like you were talking about, Pleta is going to get separated. No public execution to escape for Rich, but the Seismic Shove goes wide, and in fact, everything does. So Rich is going to be absolutely fine. Just threw down his ultimate.
Worry about his UCAL's going to come over for a punish.
Yeah, Magical Journey coming on through there as Peter only level 4. BDD comes on over, and Peter is actually going to survive as Casting is just going completely ballistic. There's the Infernal Chains, and UCAL is going to get taken down. First blood picked up by his opposite number in the mid lane.
Casting.
Rich, you don't want that.
No, you do not. I mean, he wants it, but he can't have it.
Cuz comes in, spotted on a ward. Hex Flash being charged, as per usual here for Peter whenever it's available. And BDD able to roam his way back up again. And I don't think Sponge is going to be able to get in here to really challenge too much for the first one, as Cuz does lock that one down.
Committed the smite, so maybe he will be able to trade. As if you commit that one, that's kind of your, I was saying, I'm not holding Grubs. I'm smiting and I'm getting out. And you only get one, so Sponge can secure this one without smiting, and then secure the last one, as long as his teammates stay relatively nearby.
Yeah.
And they are not.
Cuz going to move on over, as Sponge now not going to get flicked back, but he's not going to be getting this grub either. So DRX going to have to settle for 4. They're going to be, the Ambessa also is going to get better and better, as now BDD forced to flash. As Sponge going to get thrown back into the rocks. Peter finds the Shattering Strike, as there's the Magnet Storm. Connects onto a couple, but there is a gorgeous use of the Impale. And now Casting is looking to try and turn it all around. Doctom turns up as well. One after the other. He's knocking him down. And Teddy's pulled back. Casting just does a drive-by. Leaves that one up to his mid laner, as this guy is a man possessed this Aatrox.
He is looking very good on this pick. I mentioned briefly before we had a fight that he was willing to blind it. I think he expected Rich to play the Ambessa. He was like, I want this edge. They went for the Rel instead, which gave him a lot more power in team fights, a lot more consistent engage. But the Aatrox he's still got, and he is still making work.
Well, Rich is going to see what he can find, as Umbral Dash is going to be the counter.
To make sure they don't get engaged on.
Whoa, Peter is just looking for it. Okay, BDD, can you find a Seismic Shove? The answer is no, as now he's face-to-face with Rich. There's an Impale onto 2, but where's the follow-up? There is the public execution, but KT have kept most of them alive until now, as down goes Cuz. BDD trying to get himself out of there, as Doctom finally able to affect the fight, but instead, he walks away. And as we say it, KT just go boom. And then KT, were able to get it back with some weird shenanigans, as maybe we're going to see some weird shenanigans here, as 63 health, and it's Ezreal that locks down the Rift Herald. Eye picked up there by Sponge. And it looks like we are not going to have any weird stuff unless Peter decides to die, which is perhaps what he's going to do. No, he puts down the control ward. That means that he wins.
Said he has True Shot in a second. He's probably going to look for it. Lit of DRX right now.
Oh, shove going to be used onto Pleta, and he's just dead. He does manage to temper Fate himself, but unfortunately, Fate, once it's tempered, it just comes out of the tempering, and then you're still dead. As True Shot Barrage is going to soften up Doctom just a little bit, but now 4 versus 5. This is going to be a difficulty, as Peter was thinking about trying to find a trade for maybe this outer turret. Yeah, the Rift Herald going to be used, gets a nice charge, But now DRX, can they actually finish it off? And Sponge looking to try and drive his way out. Does manage to do so. It's now Teddy. Oh my god, casting! Flashing on top of him! The Infernal Chain setup is gorgeous! And he just executes the Ezreal. Now he's looking for a little bit more. Doesn't get the Q knock-up as the Impale is going to be there. But it's casting that's dictating the end of the world here. It is not you, DRX. And Sponge is going to get brought back to reality. In goes casting once again as the magical journey is taken.
The mid-turn, they will get it here.
Yeah, well, will they? Is okay. In goes Rich. BDD makes it out via the Death Chamber, and that's the Ambessa grabbing a kill. Voracious Otacon this time towards the bottom side is now casting the World Ender and the teleport to try and bring in UCal. But now Rich is going to have to flash away as BDD also committing his teleport button as well.
If there was something they could get on the top side for this.
Hysteric's now completed here as Teddy taking a lot of damage. There's the Flash Magnet Storm after the Arcane Shift, and Teddy gets sleepy. He does manage to cleanse it away, but now Doc Dump comes on over. Tempered Fate comes down, and it is just over for DRX. They lose their jungler, they lose their AD carry. They're going to lose the Dragon and maybe Otacon and this outer turret.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, I think, the final last straw here that broke the camel's back. DRX back broken, now going to come over here and look for some sort of entry into this Dragon Pit, but I just do not see it. No jungler, and it's Otacon, it's Hextech Soul. Teddy did not have Flash. His positioning so suspect, to be totally frank, in that last setup to try to push their way into Dragon.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like game one is wearing. Here's Hextech Soul on the board. Sponge looking to make his way in as Peter just trying to be a hero as they try and burst it down. And they do manage to do that. Cuz now in a bit of trouble here as the circle does go down. But remember, they have the Voracious Otacon. Rich is still going to die as Doctom puts an arrow in him as, what was that? Why are we taking that magical journey? That's so strange. UCal might still be dead here as Casting's just having a great time. And Sponge going to be the consolation Scorpion here for the Aatrox to slurp up.
All right, so they end up losing a few of those Otacon buffs, but I think
that's what they're looking for. And remember, they have a Weaver's Wall, so that is going to be able to block any sort of approach.
Yeah,
UCal's on vision, and Peter is just going to play guard man.
Again.
Yeah, just gets them out of there. That is going to be the Baron over to KT. In fact, no one does, which is pretty ridiculous. There is a great Shattering Strike onto Pleta as BDD looks for the rocks, and he'll find him as Doctom is just going 1v2. Sponge now has no damage follow-up as the shield comes in, and I just don't think that Sponge is going to be able to do it. Doctom will be able to take him down. That's a double, as now Rich is getting tired, he's getting sleepy, and Casting's going to put him in the ground.
Trade for everything.
Trishot Barrage does connect onto two, but there's a Magnet Storm onto the rest, and we blinked, and then two were dead. Down goes Pleta, down goes Sponge.
That's a
unending despair. That's what he just picked up, and honestly, I feel like he already had it. As there's a flick back onto UCal, he's destroyed as well, and the public execution is unfortunately for Rich himself. Down go these Nexus turrets, and KT with a 2-0, but remember, we are not allowed to say it's clean because it absolutely wasn't, even if this game number 2 kind of was.
It was a messy 2-0.
Very, very expertly. As we see KT in the final moments, the double shove to start it off into Peter with his Magnet Storm. KT, if you do that more often, we might be pretty happy. I just don't know whether that's something that we can count on.
BDD and Cuz, by the way, the most vocal shot callers, and this is no surprise to anyone.
Yep.
Peter also vocal, but it feels like mom and dad, the kids at the back of the van.
Yeah. Casting and Doctom are just pointed in a direction where they're supposed to hurt stuff, and they're doing so pretty well here on KT. As not a lot of celebration as we finish that one off, and we have a look at the damage numbers. Casting, absolute day out on the Aatrox.
It was definitely a big return to the form that you would expect to see from at least Cousin BDD. Doctom as well. I feel like this is a glimpse of why KT decided to loan hype and go with this pick in the first place. That's the biggest question, I think, of any.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Dear for the POM interview translation, joined by BDD on the side of KT Roaster. You have defeated DRX with a clean 2-0. How do you feel? Today was such an important match, and I'm just relieved that we were able to win today. You know, we saw you on the camera beaming, and you were just complimenting casting while laughing. So what made you so happy? No, casting puts a lot of effort into practicing and just playing, and just that reflecting on stage made me so proud of him today. So I think casting, there's only upward trajectory for you, casting. And the opponent today prioritized you. In both games 1 and 2, they banned 3 mid-champions in phase 1. So what crossed your mind after seeing that? No, I think that's just somewhat predictable into today's match. So I think we had a really good solution to counter that today. And even after getting target banned, you pulled the biggest turnaround in game 1 with Rise. So are you usually the one shot calling about the side lane macro? I think it just really gave me a really good angle when I played out the game to do the side lane macro. So I think that's why I was able to make those proactive moves. And in game 2, your seismic shove was incredible, and you led the team to victory from the early game. So what do you think contributed to the improved performance lately? I think you have to be able to win matches to sort of build up that confidence for those players. So I think the start of our winning the matches actually did make the biggest difference, and I think that actually starts a really good momentum, and that's really what the driving force of an improved performance is. And your next opponent is Yongshin Red Force. So what is your resolution? I think instead of considering who our opponent is, we just have to focus on improving our performance. And that's the end of the interview with BDD, and back to the space. Thank you.